Thank you, everyone, for being here. I'd like to call this meeting to order of the Library Commission meeting. And before we establish a quorum, I've just got a few things to say about how this is going to proceed. So we're all clear as to how it's going to work. We're going to quickly establish quorum, do the Pledge of Allegiance, and then we do public comments for items not on the agenda. Very important. It's not on the agenda. So if you're here with a public comment for an item not on the agenda, you'll be offered a chance to speak. But it's for items not on the agenda. Then we have a very quick approval of some minutes. And we'll go into the actual presentation from Anderson Boulay Architects to talk about the project. What's going to happen is they are going to present. The commissioners will go one by one around and ask any clarifying questions from our review of the presentation. Then members of the public will be given a chance to speak after that. So it's not as much as people may want it to be interactive, and it may evolve into that. Trust me, we don't want that. We need to be mindful as we respect the commission, the staff, yourselves, as we go through the comments. And we hope to give everybody a full 3 minutes. I don't see a reason to cut things down at this point. And give everyone a chance to speak, because this is what it's all about. The last thing I'll say, we're recruiting for new commissioners. And your being here in the room shows an aptitude towards commission work. So please, if you've ever considered public service, and it is public service, it is volunteer, please do so and apply. We're getting applications soon. So after the public speaks, the commissioners will discuss the item. And we'll talk about it, and then if needed, we'll put a motion in place to, if we're gonna take action, which, by the way, we don't have to take action tonight. But if we feel we do, that's when it would happen. So with that, I will ask Mr. Carnesecca to establish quorum.
Chair Bedard.
Here.
Vice Chair Morris.
Here.
Commissioner Fawcett.
Yeah.
Commissioner Carter.
Yes.
All present.
Great, and let's do the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America,
To the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, are there any public comments not for any non-agenda items?
Do not have any speaker
You
cards.
do not have, okay, thank you. Then I'd like to move to the consent calendar, approval of the minutes of the regular meeting of May 1st, 2025. Do we have a motion for approving the minutes?
You can approve both at the same
No,
time.
we can approve both at the same time. Do we have a motion to approve both minutes at the same time?
Okay.
You,
Propose a motion to approve the minutes of those meetings.
okay, I second.
Chair Bedard.
Aye.
Vice Chair Morris.
Aye.
Commissioner Fawcett.
Aye.
Commissioner Carter. Motion carries.
Thank you. And now we'll move to agenda item number 3, review and recommend approval to move forward with main library improvement design concept. Thank you.
Thank you. And get the presentation shared in just a second. You're anyway have that large screen by chance? Yeah. Feel like the window's not still.
Can we minimize the?
Anthony, do we have a microphone or?
Yeah.
Not everybody may be able to hear.
Mm-hmm. There's a switch.
Thank you.
Sure. All right, good evening, commissioners and members of the public. Thank you very much for having us again. We're excited to be here this evening. I'm going to walk us through the presentation, as Chair Bernard's already mentioned. And you can go ahead to the next slide. Maybe a quick sound check. I sound very loud to myself. Is everybody able to hear me? Okay. Just checking. So we have a very simple 5-part agenda this evening. And we're going to go through this agenda together. First, we're going to have a summary of the additional outreach and input that we received since the last time we came to the commission. We're also going to go through the final conceptual design that we developed from that input, as well as through the input of the steering committee, the TAC. We also have some conceptual design cost information to share with you this evening. And then we'll wrap up with the conclusion and some next steps. Thanks, Amy. So as we did last time, we'd like to start with where we've been, why we're here tonight, what we're looking to achieve. So as mentioned, last time we were here with you all as the commissioners on May 22nd. There's been a lot of work that's transpired since then. So you can see here on the slide, some of the community open houses that were held in the month of May. We also were able to hold a library supervisor's workshop in June. And then we also had multiple steering meetings with technical advisory committee to get us to this point today. So the design team is trying our best to incorporate all of the input we received to date. And so we are here to provide an update to you all on that, and really show how that input we received has translated into a design option and associated costs for that. We also want to make sure we outline the next steps in the process, so there's clarity around that. So for tonight, from our perspective, looking to the commission, we want to be able to really hear your observations and discussions around the additional input that we receive from the community. But we also want to be able to hear feedback on the final design option, and it's conceptual still in its nature, but be able to get your feedback on that and the corresponding costs. So those are really that's really the crux of what we want to be able to do tonight. Thank you. This is a quick reminder of the work we've conducted to date through the outreach process. And what we'll notice is there's what we're calling 2 rounds. So round 1, when we were here back in May, on May 22nd, we reviewed together all the input we received from round 1. Since that time, we've done additional outreach, which what we're calling is round 2. And you can see the workshops and open house forums that were held during round 2. And then you can see on the map where we are tonight, and then where we're looking to go in the future after this evening. This is another way to show that same process with a little more of a 30,000-foot view. This is our process map that we had shared last time, just showing you where we are in the process. I don't expect everybody to read all the text on that slide. This is strictly indicating that we are getting to a point where we're looking to conclude the first phase, which is a conceptual design phase, and then start to look ahead into what we're calling phase 2 and 3, which would be more about establishing additional detail behind the design. So that's where we are tonight on that yellow box at the top. And go ahead and go to the next slide. This slide, the last slide for our introduction about orientation and where we are in the process, is an important one. This slide is if the last one was a 30,000-foot view, this is a 60,000-foot view. Because this process that, as many of you know, that you are embarking on is a long process. Design and construction takes time. And to do it right and to do it well with all of the input and outreach, it takes additional time. So this diagram simply shows the overall process. So if you look at it, you you can see where we are, which is phase one, which is the design alternatives analysis. And you can see the different phases that progress after that. And so we are still at the beginning of this process. And the durations at the bottom are estimates. These are not to be misconstrued as final durations, but to give everybody a sense of typical durations to go through a design, bidding, and construction process. That's why we've included those durations at the bottom. So a lot of work ahead of the team. We're very excited to be here again this evening. That hopefully gives a little insight into the context that we want to achieve. So let's jump now to the next. And I think we're going to talk about the additional outreach and input that we received. And you want to walk us through?
Okay, good evening, everybody. Can you hear me? Do I have it close enough? Yeah, right. I'm gonna do this. So last time we saw you, we went over everything from round one. So we're not going to talk about the round one stuff tonight. We're going to talk pretty high level about what we heard in round two. So we're gonna just review that outreach. So the last time, when we went through all of this,
Yeah, hold it closer.
gathered all this information. This is a synopsis of what we heard. So we definitely heard that there were some concerns about Friends of the Library spaces. There needed to be more workspace than the proposal showed. That the FOL relies highly on the visibility and accessibility of sales space in the library. That there were some difficulties with where the proposed workspace was for materials flow in and out, et cetera. That there was more desired flexibility in the sales space, the adjacency of the workspace to the recycling bins was important, and there were concerns on behalf of staff for the staff space size and storage. We definitely heard across the board about the restrooms, so there was concerns about safety and security, and if there was going to be pursuit of that, to consider an equivalent option for those that prefer traditional restrooms. There was some clarification asked for on these quantity and sizes of the meeting rooms or study rooms or quiet rooms, whatever we're going to end up calling them. Desire for flexible space for community to come together. And there was a question on the need to maintain the current collections size.
If I may pause just for a second. And Commissioner Carter, are you able to hear? Okay. Just make sure you can.
And can you hear me?
Bring it closer.
I feel like I'm really loud. So.
It's okay.
No, sorry to interrupt you.
Okay.
I just want to make sure everybody can hear.
Okay, continuing that. So on staff workspace, we went over this with the library supervisors to really get their feedback on their staff workspace because we didn't really go over that with the rest of the community. So we reviewed 3 different layout options for staff. We reviewed or received input from multiple voices and perspectives, including the children's librarian, supervisor, and supervising librarian for adult and teen services. So some of the things that we reviewed with them was the AMH, or the automated materials handling machine. So that's when you put your books in the return, that's the machine that takes them back into the workspace. Their workflow and circulation, staff lounge and restrooms, quantity of offices needed for staff, sizes and quantities of workstations needed, individual task space, group space for tasks and working together on projects, layout and sorting space, and cart and storage requirements. So those are all of the things that we went over with them. We went through a couple of iterations. We reviewed them with the library team and came to the conclusion of what you'll see in the plans tonight. We also talked about main library space, considering automated sliding doors in the children's area to help with noise, and talked about collections quantity needing to be reviewed, performing some weeding and collecting targets. So this is a really high level summary of what we heard when we did the community outreach session out here in the main area of the library. I can't super duper multitask. So what you'll notice is option 1 is noted in the sort of teal color, and option 2 is noted in the blue color. So we showed 2 different options when we talked with the community, and you can see basically how they scored. And they're very, very similar, pretty much most of them are on the neutral to better or much better side. The only one that was below that was the Friends of the Library work and sale space. So you can see where all of those landed from the community, what we heard.
Sorry, is there a sound yeah?
I was trying to make the volume up.
And then now I feel like
I heard it change.
Yeah, okay,
No,
so what
that
should I
works.
lower?
Yeah, you're hearing an echo.
Yeah, just hear like this microphone noise. Let me turn, yeah.
Again, high level, what you can take away from this is, trying to just show what I'm talking about. So, in the top two, this is showing option 1 and option 2 for one of the key topics that we heard about. So improving the Friends of the Library work and sales space. You can see that, in the greens and the blues, those were either much better, better, or neutral, at roughly half. And then in option 2, it goes even more that than half, not quite 75%. But you can see a good percentage that says worse or much worse. So these are just comparisons of that option 1 and option 2 for that particular topic. And then overall success for option 1 and option 2, you can see that in option 1, at least half of the respondents said it was either much better or better, and a pretty large chunk said it was neutral. In option 2, an even larger amount of people said it was much better or better, with a pretty large chunk being neutral. So in general, these are pretty positive responses to both of the options that we shared in that public outreach. Okay. We take all of that information that we hear from everybody, all those Post-it notes, we take them, we group them together for like topics, and we picked a couple of the comments that cover, across the board to share in the meetings that we've had with the TAC and with you. So there was both support for shared non-gendered restrooms and there was opposition to it. Input was generally supportive of family restrooms. There was some confusion about the difference between the community non-gendered restrooms and family restrooms and what each of those meant. I'm not going to read all of these comments for you guys because you were able to look at this ahead of time. You can also go back and look at it afterwards. But those were some general comments about the restrooms. Friends of the Library was unhappy with their conceptual plan that would reduce their workspace. And there were some proposals of moving Friends of the Library sales space off-site. And then, which is orange from Jason. And then there were a good number of community comments on design details that we're not yet considering because we're not into that phase, but we definitely heard all of this from everybody and we've got that information cataloged so that as we move into the next phase of design, we can go back and look at these and consider these comments. And then lastly, there was a little bit of confusion, I think, about the passport office being in the library. I have a feeling some people didn't know that it exists there now and might have thought we were adding it versus just relocating it. Support was mixed regarding the extended hours space with some concerns about wasted space, and others wanted to be sure that it's welcoming for people to gather and interact and should even be larger than was proposed. And there was an appreciation for providing quiet study / meeting rooms, while others that don't use something like that didn't think it was necessary. And then you can see there were some comments about the design, including the dividing wall, and there were some comments about the meeting spaces that were both positive and that were didn't think it was necessary. And yeah, the passport office makes no sense here. So again, you can go through and read these comments on your own. I'm not going to take up all of our time to read all of those to you, but that's a synopsis of what we heard from the community. So, to remind us.
Yeah, I can do this part. So, one of the things that coming out of that additional input, and I think want to acknowledge that it's very difficult to convey all of the input that we received on a few slides, right? So Amy just went through the highlights, and one of our jobs is to try to pull out the things from a huge array of input and be able to really pull out the key themes. And so that's what Amy just reviewed with you all. In addition to the key themes, there are design goals These goals were the same goals we reviewed last time when we were here. So these should look familiar if you recall. But again, when we talk about design, we can judge design based on a set of criteria. So design is successful only if it hits the goals that we're trying to achieve. So these are the goals that we had set out through the input we received. And as we go through the final conceptual design draft today, these are the goals that I want everybody to keep in mind as we look at these plans and renderings. So I won't necessarily read all of them, but I just wanted to give that context again. Could you zoom in a little bit on this one? In touch. Thanks, Amy. So one of the important things that we want to acknowledge about this design effort is there are a number of things that are really critical to understand beyond what you see on the plan. Because what you see on the plan right now is nothing more than a floor plan with labels, and you see some renderings of what it might start to feel like spatially. So that is the teal bubble. That's smart and efficient moves with the interior space. We are working within an existing building, an existing envelope. So we have to be smart about how we move space around to create the most efficient and well-used space that we can. That is really important to this project. But equally important to this project is what I'll call a holistic update. And what that means really is the experiential aspect. These are the things that everybody gets to experience. These are the acoustics of the space. This is how well the AV and how this microphone is performing or not. This is the power and data accessibility for all the community members. This is accessibility, period, for people who are challenged in that way, or frankly, if you have a stroller, that presents challenges sometimes. So thinking about visual acuity, lighting, accessibility, making the building perform thermally, more comfortably, these are all things that we are including in this design. So what you see on paper is one thing, but there's a lot behind that. And I wanted to just point this out, that these two things combined result in big impact and result in the design goals being realized. So with that context, let's jump to the next slide. So one of the things that I'll speak to is that you have an incredible building here. We need to understand deeply how this building is performing and where it's falling short. So when we started this process, we did what we call a facility assessment. And this assessment is important because it provides the foundation for everything that we do. And one of the things that we wanted to review this evening is some of the key takeaways from that assessment. One of the things I'll mention is that this assessment really allows us as a design team, there's a whole lot of people behind Amy and I that are here tonight that are looking at ways to improve all of those things I mentioned, down to, again, the mechanical units, looking at full electrification of the building. There's a lot of components to this. So some of the key takeaways of your building, of your space, are that this building has great structural bones. Structurally, there's nothing wrong with this building. So that is a key indicator of an excellent way to consider this is a prime opportunity to renovate and improve what's here, because the bones are good. Second to that, you do have systems in this building that are aging. So the mechanical, the electrical, the plumbing, these systems are getting old. So if we're going to consider an improvement, we need to look at upgrading those systems. Additionally, accessibility. When this building was designed and the various improvements that have occurred since that time, accessibility requirements have changed. and they've strengthened, they're more robust. So we have to rise up to improve how we're looking at accessibility. In addition, I'll just mention that, you know, these improvements that I'm talking about are required to keep this building working, whether or not you do everything else that I've been talking about with the efficient space moves. Eventually, these things need to be done. So again, it's really important, and we've done this with our team. We have mechanical engineers, plumbing engineers, structural engineers, electrical, looking at your building to understand it. So with that, let's jump to the next slide. There is a report that summarizes, a draft report that summarizes all of this. I'm not going to cover every part of the report, but I would like to highlight a couple of key items. As I mentioned, structurally, this building is in great condition. The original and expanded sections are supported by steel moment frames. Steel moment frames are a very excellent system for handling seismic load as well as dead and gravity loads. That's great news for the bones of this building. Additionally, when we were here with our structural engineer of record, there were no deficiencies that he could find. So again, we can only see what we can see. We can't get underneath the slab. We can't get underneath the building. But from what we can tell, great bones. That's important. Next slide. Let's talk about mechanical and plumbing quickly. Mechanical and plumbing, many of us never see the guts of the building, but the guts are what give you the great thermal experience, the acoustical experience, frankly, and many other things. You have an existing HVAC and plumbing systems that are functioning, but they are aging, as I mentioned. And several of the mechanical components, such as the chilled and hot water pumps, are near the end of their life. So these are systems that are prime for consideration to replace as part of this upgrade. And so you can see here some photos. If any of you have ever been to the mechanical yard, just right behind the children's area here, these are some of the photos from that yard. So our engineering team went out there, opened things up, looked at this to understand how it's functioning. The plumbing fixtures as well are in need of some update, and control system. In today's world, as many of you know, there are a lot of controls inside of these systems that allow us to integrate lighting, HVAC, other things to have the best energy performance we can. Right now, your controls are lacking. So that's going to be another component of this. Go to the next slide, please. Thank you. Electrical. Electrical is comprised of lighting, power, and to a certain extent, data backbone, telecom. So right now, you guys need some better lighting that's more highly efficient. Lighting controls to go with that as well. In addition, as we all know, especially with today's generations, they go where power is. And so I think there's a definite need to continue to look at where power can be provided more flexibly and throughout the space. So that's another key element here that you'll see. And then there's life safety issues, frankly. Egress lighting, fire alarm safety devices that need upgrades. And these are components that are really critical, again, in the case of the emergency, to have these functioning. And this is all part of what we would be doing as this improvement moves forward, is improving all these systems. And I'll mention, I think I mentioned this before quickly, electrification is a big topic. And it's something that we as designers are constantly grappling with in all of our work. There is a cost sometimes to electrification, initial cost. But with the latest codes and the way things are trending, there's a big push to move away from natural gas. We have considered that as part of this project. And we've looked at ways to fully electrify this building and account for the costs of doing that. So we will go through that later in more detail, but I wanted to mention that as another component of what we're thinking about. Telecom and AV. So AV is audio visual. That would be this TV display behind us, the mic. These are the things that, and of course your Wi-Fi and all your data system. There's also components here that need significant update. So this would be a part of this scope of work. I've already touched on this, so I won't belabor the point, but accessibility is key, and one of the biggest areas are restrooms for accessibility. So a big part of the improvements will include considering accessibility in restrooms and everywhere throughout the building. You might recognize the picture on the right-hand side on the slide. If all of you look to your left, it's that counter right there. If I'm in a wheelchair, how do I use that? There's no knee space. Right, there's no knee space for me to pull in and use that sink or use that counter. That should be something that is provided. So those types of things throughout the entire space, we're looking at improving. I think lastly, architecture and interiors. This is a big category because this includes all of the things that you all get to experience visually and that you get to touch and interact with. These are the materials, the finishes, the ceiling treatments, the doors, the hardware. All of these things are really important. And we're going to be taking cues on how to do these things based on the current architecture that you have. You have a building that was designed by a Bay tradition architect, Ernest Kump, and there's a lot of history behind this building. So when we select finishes, when we looked at ways to solve the details, the interior details, we'll be taking cues from the heritage of this building. If that makes sense. And with that, I'm going to hand this over to Amy, but I'll just say, this is your existing floor plan of this building. And to orient everybody, maybe Amy, can you just draw a circle where we're sitting right now? So we're in the orchard room. Many of you are very familiar with this building, so I probably don't need to tell you where we are, but we're about to go through a design that looks to improve this existing condition. So I want everybody to see what it looks like today from a bird's eye view, if you will. And Amy's going to walk us through how we're looking to improve the layout and functionality of your space.
So I know there's a lot on this slide. So it should look pretty familiar to you all. There's a lot of it that is similar, but there are some very key differences that you will notice that are based on the feedback that we got from all of you and from the community. So I will go through this with you. Again, here's your entrances. This is your main entrance from parking out front. Again, we're right here in the community room, and this is the entrance that comes off of the orchard. So key design elements. We still have the full height glass wall that divides the active areas and the quiet areas of the library. This thing is a workhorse. It's going to do a lot for us in the space to answer some of the needs that we heard about. Yep, I'm just reading from that, so I just don't want to lose that. That's going to create a lobby and marketplace. I know there was some concern about that name. It is a common term that is used in library design, so you don't think about it as a retail space. It's just a common word that is used in library design. So that marketplace is available for after hours use, extended hours use, and that marketplace can be designed to be flexible to accommodate different types of events. So we have not designed the furniture for this space yet. Remember, we're looking at this as a conceptual design, so the furniture is not set. But in future phases of the project that Jason showed you earlier, the different phases, later on comes the furniture, and we can work with the library in the district, the city, to come up with furniture that's as flexible as is needed. Whole shelves are available in the marketplace. Staff maintains 2 service locations as they do now. Staff is consolidated into a single area that is more efficiently designed. That staff's workspace is this big purple area. The teen room stays in its current location. The community room stays in its current location. There will be increased access to power for personal devices, Jason talked about briefly. There is a plan for a reduction in shelving. That reduction has not been decided on yet, but there is going to be some reduction. And as part of this relocation of the collection, the DVDs and periodicals will be relocated somewhere in the building, not necessarily reduced, just relocated to another location. Over here so I can see, yeah. So we've got this broken up into some areas where there were a lot of key comments. So the first area is circled in or has a dashed red line around it. So this is sort of the restroom core, what we might call it. So it includes the lobby space, right as you walk in that door, the restrooms, family restrooms that are accessible just from the children's area, and a new space that you'll notice is called a multi-use room. I'm going to try to get this maximized here so I can read that and you guys can see that. So we do maintain separate men's and women's restrooms here in this plan. There is one non-gendered single restroom off of the main lobby for those who prefer it.
That way we can zoom in.
Yeah. And then we do have the 2 family restrooms off of the children's area here.
There's some, hang on, there's some lag with the screen. For some reason, it doesn't catch up. There we go.
So yeah, 2 family restrooms here. And then you'll notice here in the lobby is the Friends of the Library sales space in an enclosed space. We'll show you some 3D images later of how that could potentially look. Remember, we're conceptual right now. So it allows for that space to be able to be secured during the extended hours. Also could be accessed by Friends of the Library volunteers after hours if desired. The cafe remains in the lobby. There is still seating in the lobby because we know that that is something that is used every day by caregivers. Community room function and location remains as is. The interior lobby book drop remains, and there is this new multi-use room that can be used by staff. It can be used by library guests. It can be booked in advance. It is a really versatile room, it's kind of a workhorse. So then here in this green section, it includes this area here. So the Friends of the Library workspace.
Give it 1 second.
Sorry.
It has to transition.
To catch up.
Yeah.
Okay. So we heard a lot that preference would be at least, if not to make the Friends of the Library workspace smaller to do no harm and keep it at least in the location that it is in. So it is still in its current location. The size and shape is like a little bit different. We'll talk about this later in order for it to work well with the architecture and the hip that is in the ceiling. But you can see that it is roughly about the same size. It maintains the access to the back door that you have now. We can make it more acoustically sound so that you guys can talk at a normal level in there and people that are sitting out here in the quiet area aren't disturbed. Again, it can fit more seamlessly into the architecture. And then we also have this row of small study rooms and or meeting rooms. That is, there's 3 small ones and 2 medium ones. One nice thing is that this one can be used by staff if they wanted to directly from the staff room. And again, we maintain the passport office. Area 3 is the staff room, which most of you won't experience or haven't experienced, but so you're aware of the improvements that we've made there. We've maintained 19 workstations. That's what we were told is required. All full-time staff have their own workstations, and there are some additional workstations for part-time staff. Everybody that requires an office will have one. Nobody has to share. One thing that we heard from staff is that they would really like to have a second restroom, which we were able to accommodate. We are utilizing in this plan high-density shelving for storage that makes it a lot more efficient, and that was really quite well received by the library staff. The location of that AMH remains with some modifications, so there shouldn't be any changes to where the book drops are on the interior or the exterior of the building. They still maintain 2 entrances to their staff space. They have flexible open area for carts. Again, they have that meeting room that they can access from the staff area when they need to. And then their staff break room size has been reduced, but the functions remain, and then they got that extra restroom. So that is a lot of information real quick, but you guys have seen this before, so it shouldn't be completely new to you. You'll notice, I'll just highlight real quick, the green area that shows the shelving. We're going to talk about the shelving in a bit on another slide. Go ahead to the next one. So I wanted to talk briefly about some potential flexibility for the marketplace. So right now, you're seeing it here with larger furniture that allows for power access, where it's drawn from one location, but it's stretched out so that more people can access power from one piece of furniture. That's something that would not be as flexible and wouldn't move around as easily. Again, furniture is going to come down the road in another phase. We can design this to be as flexible as possible. So if furniture wanted to be so flexible that it can move out of the way, and you can set it up to, I don't know that you're going to do a banquet in here, but let's say there's a performance happening, or a poetry reading, or a guest lecture. So there's the ability to use this space almost like you would use this community room. So it allows for that additional flexible space within the library. So when we talk about its flexibility, again, those are just a couple of ways that it could be set up.
If I may, I just wanted to add 2 quick items. I'm going to go back 1 step. That's okay, that works. So I think big takeaways here are restrooms. Restrooms, I wanted to point out on this plan, these are gendered restrooms. So male and female restrooms. We also have the option in the spot between the 2 restrooms to consider a single unit restroom that could be considered all gender, right, at that point, because you have 1 occupant, could be a male or a female. We also have the 2 family restrooms. So from a restroom perspective, this is a much different plan than what you saw last time. I just wanted to point out the big changes real quick. So this is a significant change from where we were. We have coordinated closely with the team that's developing the improvements for the children's space. You guys have a great children's improvements plan happening right now across the system. And we've been coordinating with that team so that we can include access directly from children's to get to the family restrooms. Then we have 2 family restrooms, which is, I think, going to be a nice amenity for that. I wanted to point out one other thing about this plan, which is the multi-use room. Amy mentioned this. We heard last time that we don't just need small meeting spaces. We need a variety of meeting spaces, and we need to be smart with how many we have, because you do have great amenities at the community center as well for meeting space. But the multi-use room becomes what I will call a large flexible meeting space. And then you have 2 mediums and a few smalls. So we were able to look at a variety, again, without heavily impacting collections and other aspects of the library space. And I think the last thing I wanted to point out on the plan, if you could just zoom all the way out. Amy talked about the Friends of the Library workspace. We'll give it a second. And for the workspace, you all know, I know there's many Friends members here tonight, that workspace is where you currently work out of. We had an opportunity to go see on a couple of occasions how that process works on a day-to-day basis. And we also know that there's the sales component of what you do, which is very important. So this gets us the same amount of space that you have now, but we are able to acoustically separate it. We'll show you in a view how that works. Because again, respecting the architecture, respecting the interior space is important. And right now, the Friends of the Library workspace has partial height walls and a big brace that is not complementary to the space, and it also doesn't provide acoustical separation. So we'll talk about that, as Amy mentioned. I'll pause for a second, Amy, if you have anything else.
Thank you. I wanted to add that right now we're showing a conceptual idea for how this could be set up. Obviously, in the future, it can change, but we thought something that might be beneficial for the Friends of the Library workspace is to also use high density shelving in there. So it takes up less square footage. You may be able to fit more on your shelves when you have your holiday collections and things that you just need to store, but you don't need to access. It could be something that's part of this high density shelving. I know you need large workspaces for the boxes and et cetera. So in future phases, we can work through that with you to understand what those needs are. But this allows for what might even be a more, something that functions a little bit better because it's more of a square. It's not quite as squished into that linear space. You don't have that little hallway. So again, we've got shelves along this wall. We've got shelves tucked in here, shelves here, and then we're showing this high density shelving here as well with these workspaces here in the center. So just so you know, we've thought about this. There's obviously more work to come to make sure that it's going to function well, but wanted to have you understand that this is high density shelving here so that that's clear. Okay, so we're going to look at some conceptual renderings. So I want to just remind you that they are conceptual. So to help you get a better understanding of the proposed floor plan design. So it drops you right into the space so that you can see it at an eye level view. It's not intended to be realistic. Like we haven't picked carpet. We haven't picked the colors of things, any of that. So it's very neutral. It's gray and wood tones right now because it's really just showing you the overall layout and the form of this.
Yeah, I already mentioned this, but you have an incredible space already designed by an architect originally that has a very strong tradition. So as we look forward to the design and selecting materiality, those decisions will be based on respecting that. And so Amy pointed out that what you're going to see in the renderings is more about showing you the spatial quality in terms of volume, extents, boundaries, what's solid, what's not. It's not about that wall has wood on it or that wall has purple paint on it. That's going to be in all those design phases that I showed you before. That comes down the road. But right now, what we want to do is communicate the overall feeling of these spaces in terms of the volume of the space.
Okay, so this one is mostly the same from what you guys have seen before. So down in the right here, we've got this key plan that shows you a perspective of where you're looking at it from. So you've come through the lobby, you've come through one of those doors and you're looking sort of towards where the teen space is. And you're looking through the big glass wall towards the quiet areas. So your perspective is in the active area of the library.
So, see the image.
It's really just, sorry. Yeah, so here, you're seeing the top of that glass wall that goes all the way across. The goal is to have this feel as transparent and open as we can. We did hear that there's some concern about people running into the wall, so there's always going to be the opportunity to add some kind of a film or something to it that helps with the visibility for people. Another thing that you're seeing here, I made some modifications to the teens room where we dropped in a solid wall, but we're keeping as much glass as possible in order to increase the functionality of the teens room, where we can either put shelving inside that wall, we can put their gaming screen or something along those lines. Again, there's more work to come in the future. But you're seeing a mix of seating, this long piece here that has access to power and still maintaining shelving in this area. This is just like we've taken a step towards the door that exits out here to the orchard. So you're standing kind of close to the entrance to the children's space and you're looking back again into the quiet space. So very similar to what we were looking at before, just slightly different perspective. Now we've gone inside the quiet area of the library. So you've now gone through these doors and you're standing back here looking out towards the active area of the library. So again, we're seeing a piece of furniture here that can allow for many people to be able to sit down and have access to power. Again, furniture is coming later, so we'll get into the weeds of that in future phases of the project. But again, here's this glass wall, and here's the teens area over here just for orienting yourself to this view.
Yeah, if I may, I just wanted to point out here, these last couple of views, you'll notice that the central, what I'll call the central spine of the building, you are very familiar with, again, the space. There's a beautiful spine in the ceiling that runs all the way through. And we want to continue that and not lose that in what we're doing. So a big part of this idea is that you can still see the continuity of that through the glass. And that provides a feeling of openness and continuity through the space, not cutting it off. Because what we don't want to do is create a renovation, an interior improvement that makes the space feel smaller. Right? What we're trying to do here is make the space feel as big or bigger through these types of methods that we're talking about.
Yeah, I mentioned earlier that this wall is doing a lot for us. It's giving us the quiet area in the library and the active space in the library. It's giving us the ability to have these doors locked and have the extended access, on the other side of this. So it's doing a lot for us. There is a lovely view down the length of the library. And like Jason was saying, we didn't want to block that off. We want it to feel as open as possible. As much like it does now as possible. So this again is another familiar view. We've just taken a step over a little bit closer to the other side of the library, looking back through that wall towards the active area. This is the entrance to staff right here, I believe. And then this next view will be a new one that you have not seen before. So this is one way that we could handle doing the Friends of the Library sales space in more of a bookstore style. Right now we're showing it, so you're seeing it from this perspective. So you're okay, so you are standing where the big red star is, looking back towards it this direction. Zoom back out and give it a second. So right now it is an enclosed space, but we wanted it to feel as open as possible. So we're currently showing it with glass walls. I know that there's going to be a desire to maximize the shelving in there as much as possible. So what we're currently showing is what we call spandrel glass, but there's a section of this that has maybe a film on it so that a bookcase could go against the back of this, a lower bookcase. You can see one down here. Sorry, my mouse doesn't want to cooperate. So it could be the same condition on this side where there's a lower bookshelf against this wall. We can have some fun with the signage. We can work with the Friends of the Library to come up with something that's really interesting and compelling. And we'll work on lighting and all of that type of stuff in the future. So this is one way that we could do it, having it feel as open and welcoming as possible. People can see the books, they can see that this is the store, and they can stop in there on their way in and out of the library, on their way to the restroom, on their way to this room. So that is the proposed Friends of the Library space. I want to show you one other thing just right here. If you can zoom into that, Jason. So right before you come into this room, we played with a couple of different ideas, and in talking with the technical advisory committee, we thought it would be interesting to have a space that is a community board. So those are a couple of maybe bulletin boards or those enclosed ones behind glass that allows for community postings. Maybe there's a board that's just for the commission, so the commission can post their own things in their own board. And then there's some space for some shelving below that for whatever might end up going there. Whether it's commission stuff, pamphlets, etc. So that is the Friends of the Library space in the lobby.
I just wanted to point out back on the plan, I'm gonna go back once it catches up. That the consideration of this idea is not just the Friends sales space and creating a space that is for Friends, that is closed, but can also feel open. So there's sliding doors that open the entire front portion of the space. And then in addition, there's a synergy here. Now we have sales space with cafe cart. We have created niches inside to either side of the Friends area for additional display and storage for the cafe cart, because that's important as well. And we still have the seating, and it's right at the crux of where everybody's traveling. This is, whether you're coming in through the Orchard Room entry or the main entry, Friends Bookstore is right there. So I just wanted to explain some of the thinking behind why it's here and also how it's intended to function.
Okay, so that's the sales space. Now we're going to jump towards the back of the library where we're looking at the exterior of the workspace. Sorry, I'm zooming. It's just taking a second. So the view that we are looking at this is from this general area, looking back towards the workspace. So you'll be able to see here that it feels bright and open. Sorry, it's lagging. So there is a glass clear story above this. So we would make sure that the portion of the wall, the solid piece of wall, would be high enough to have shelving on the interior that is useful and gives you as much storage as possible. But in order to have it feel open and feel really part of the architecture and very intentional, we looked at adding the glass above so that it feels more, what's the word I want to use? Not ethereal, but we can see the light coming through. You guys get light coming from the exterior windows, and it doesn't feel like a big block in the center or this corner of the building. That's one view of that. The door is right over here, so if that helps with orientation. And then this is if you've stepped back into that quiet space that is just outside of that now, adjacent to the windows, looking back towards that. So, Jason, do you want to talk a little bit about how the windows are fitting into the shape of the ceiling?
Just quickly, because it's a nuance to many people, but again, it's about respecting what is an incredible space that you have. One of the things that we did is, Amy, if you could sketch where the hip is for me, since you're controlling it. Thank you. So you have what we call a hip. There's a line, it'll show up in a minute, in the ceiling. And right now, what's below this natural part of the roof line there's no relationship to it. So what we did is we massaged the walls of the Friends workspace to align to what's above, so that when we carry this clear story all the way up, it has a logical and rational point that it hits into that hip. Again, these are subtleties, but things that are important when we're considering respecting the space. And the beauty of it is that it's still actually an improved proportion to the Friends. By massaging these walls, we actually kept the same square footage, but just improved the proportion and also improved the intersection of the architecture. So that's something, and again, we're always looking at those ideas.
This this is pretty much the same as what you all have seen before. This is looking at that row of study spaces, meeting rooms, whatever we're going to end up calling them, roughly from this location. Sorry. So they are glass fronted, and what's nice is you can see a bit here in a second, where we've given them some glass, like the wall doesn't come all the way out to the edge. There's a little sliver of glass in between each of these rooms, so that as you're looking down this space, you can see through it. It doesn't feel so blocky. It doesn't feel like it's cutting the space off quite as much. So that's one nice design element that you can see happening here. But again, this is mostly the same as what you would have seen in our previous presentation. And then we threw in one more view, which it's got a lot of shelving there, but wanted you to see from a different direction what that might look like. So you're looking through the shelving. Actually, I think our view is a little bit more here. Where my red or pink dot is. So we're kind of looking at it more like that. We're looking at it more straight on. So you're looking through the shelving and you're seeing those glass fronted meeting rooms / study rooms with the existing windows that are allowing that natural light to come into the space. So these slides just have all of those views together. So if, when you look at this on your own, you can look at them in comparison to each other. So that this slide and the next slide are just doing that. So the views have not changed. They're the same that we just looked at. Same thing here. And there is the key plan down here to get you oriented to see where you are standing to look at these views. And then here's our restroom course. So we talked about this earlier. We talked about having the separated men's and women's restrooms, as well as the single-use restroom that is here in the center. And then these two family restrooms that are here and here. One thing is, for some reason, it's not showing here, but this one, you can sort of see it. See this through this wall here is a drinking fountain, so that it is accessible here from the children's area. We are showing, you got changing tables that we've got to have in both of these restrooms. So it will have the full accoutrement of things you would expect in a new restroom. So this is an easier way to show you what's going on in here than trying to do a 3D view, because it's just be way too tight. And the other thing you're seeing here is that multi-use room that's kind of part of this restroom core, if we can call it that.
One thing I wanted to point out on the restrooms is that you'll see the entry to the restrooms is through a foyer or an alcove. So you come into a central place and then you turn into the restroom. This provides a little relief off of the lobby so that you're having doors opening straight out. It also provides a little privacy and allows us to have that middle single-use restroom in there as well. So when we think about that overall space, we really thought about how to create that relief, a little privacy, a little buffer before you get straight to the restrooms from the lobby and for sound.
Okay. So the last thing that I want to show you as far as design is we have started looking at the shelving and the collections. We have started. We don't have any final numbers. We need to work with the district and the library to figure out the achieved or the targeted collection reduction. So right now you're still seeing quite a bit of shelving here, but it is reduced down from what is existing, because as you can see in the existing plan here, there's quite a bit of shelving. So we've cut off just a bit of it in the proposed plan to make space for these study and meeting spaces. So this is just very high level to see this, there's obviously other shelving that is scattered around the library, but the bulk of it is shown in these green areas, and you can see how that changes a bit in the proposed plan. So this is just a really high level look at that. And obviously, we want to make sure we balance space for collections with space for people and activities. So making sure that we're hitting the right balance of that. That's a goal that we will work on with the TAC. Okay. On to the next.
All right, wrap it up. We wanted to take the time to go through the design. That's the most important part. So I'm going to jump now to the costs that are associated with this conceptual design. And we could move to the next slide and we'll take you. This slide is really an orientation slide. What this does is it tells you about how project costs work. As many of you know from doing your own projects or being involved in projects, it's not just the brick and mortar costs of the work, but it's also what we call soft costs. So these are things such as engineering costs, permitting fees, any consultant costs, testing and inspections, financing potentially. These are things that are important to consider when you're budgeting for a project. So typically we see a range of about 70% of your project costs are brick and mortar, it's the building, and about 30% are your soft costs. This can vary, obviously, but this is a general kind of metric to consider as the city and commission looks to move forward with the project. We want to make sure we're considering a holistic view of all the costs. So that said, as has been stated a few times, we are not in a place of having a final design. We are in what we call a conceptual phase. When you're in a conceptual phase, you cannot estimate costs. We don't have drawings. We're not taking off lineal footage of every single material and finish. We are doing cost modeling, which is done in a similar fashion, using benchmarks, knowing the level of quality that we want to imbue into the space. And this cost model also includes a lot of contingency for the unknown. Whenever you're working with an existing space, there's going to be things that we don't know about until we open them up. So all of the costs that I will share with you factor in those contingencies as well. So I wanted to be clear that there are some key assumptions that go into this. And these key assumptions are noted here in the box on the lower left. So this assumes that this project, if we were going to move forward with something like this, that it would be a design, bid, build delivery method. What that means is that you would go through the design process, generate a set of drawings, have it permitted, and then you would go out to the builder community in a bidding process and award the lowest qualified bidder. There's different delivery methods, and that can affect costs. So that's why we're clarifying that in one of our assumptions. And that's a very typical method for a public project. There also needs to factor in duration. As we all know, escalation in inflation is real, and it's even more so now than ever. So we have to look at factoring that into our costs, because we know we're not going to build this tomorrow. So we have to look at a timeline that seems reasonable. So right now, you see the dates on the screen. Those are placeholder dates as an assumption of when the construction might start and when it might finish. If the dates move, it will affect the escalation costs. And I'll show you that later. The other important factor is that the costs that I'm going to show you for the hard costs of the construction are for single phase construction. That means that all of the work is done at one time. That is the most cost-effective way to do the work. However, we fully recognize that further discussion would need to be had with this team and many others about potential phasing, especially with the district, because if there is an appetite to have library not have full downtime, then phasing would need to be considered. And we have a slide that will speak to that as well. And there's some exclusions. I'm not going to go through all these. These are very typical exclusions in a cost estimate. So let's get to the meat of it. Conceptual design costs on the right-hand side in the big green box. That 8.314 million, that is the hard cost of construction for the plans we just showed you. If we want to consider doing electrification, decarb, that's another $500,000 to do a service upgrade through PG&E and provide all the power to do electrification. So these numbers are conceptual because we have conceptual plans. But overall, what I wanted to point out is that this is an $8.8 million effort in hard costs. And you can see on the left how that breaks down in big chunks. There's a lot more detail behind this, but when it comes to the big pieces, this provides you a lens through which to look at it. And what you're going to see is, for example, if you look at mechanical, electrical, and lighting combined, that's a significant number. Thank you, Amy. If you look at accessibility alone, that's a significant number because right now that includes a lot of the restroom work, and restrooms are not inexpensive. And then you'll see telecom and AV data backbone at around $1 million. And then you'll see the interiors and architecture, which is really, again, interiors. We're not affecting anything on the skin of the building as one of the most significant portions, which is not atypical, because now we're talking about reconfiguring space, all the framing work, all the details that go into that. So this is a very high level view of the costs for everybody to understand. And of course, the goal would be moving forward is to understand how we can thread the needle on tuning the design and designing to a budget. So right now, if we were to say, you know what, this needs to be a $7.5 million hard cost project, making that up. Then what we do is we design to that number, and there's ways that we can do that. So right now, based on, again, conceptual work, first pass, this is where we're at with the costs. Go to the next slide. I mentioned phasing. I'm not going to go through this in detail, but Amy, if you just zoom in to the right, upper right for a second. If phasing is going to be considered, there's a lot of things to think about. So these two lists, primarily the top one, once it gets there, this is the list of things to think about and how you might phase or what considerations you should make. There are many ways to do this. And so we are here to help support the city team. If there was a desire to do phasing, how can we do that? What will make the most sense? Because there are ways to do it that are good, and there are ways to do it that are not so good. And essentially, when you phase a project, it takes longer, and time is money. So where we started is the assumption of let's do this in one phase and see what that would look like. And if we wanted to break it into phases, we can explore that as we move forward. I think that's the main point here. So let's wrap it up. Conclusion and next steps. We're going to go to one last slide here. Amy, if you could zoom in just on the bottom for me. So this is essentially the same slide that we showed you earlier at the very beginning of the presentation, but in a different format. What this is showing you is we're here tonight on August 7th with the commission. And we're going to be looking to move from this to a city council meeting in the future. We don't have a final date for that, as you can see. And then obviously talking with the NCLA group as well following that. So these would be some of the next steps we're looking to take following this evening. I just wanted to recap that as we wrap up the presentation.
Great. Thank you.
Really quickly, staff just wanted to say thank you to ABA for all their hard work in phase one. And obviously for the commission, this has been a long project, starting with an ad hoc subcommittee of the Library Commission that started this effort. And then thank you to the public. Thank you guys for being here today and engaged in this process. I see lots of familiar faces that have been at lots of these community meetings, so we appreciate all that feedback, and any questions from the commission would be great.
Thanks, Anthony. So right now, what we'll do, our next phase is really get any points of clarification from the commission. I want to remind the commissioners, this is not a discussion of anything. It's really, do we have questions directly to them about, to AB about what was proposed. And then following that, I believe we will go into public comment. And thank you for the public for sitting through the presentation. Your time is coming. Michelle. Any?
Start, okay. Thank you so much, the ABA team, for working very hard to accommodate our needs and really hearing us, and I really appreciate it, and for example, the bathroom, very thankful that you took our comments. And same with the friends of the library area. And also thank you for the public for participating. We've seen a lot of people come to so many of those meetings, and I received a lot of emails as well. So, thank you so much for all the comments and participation. So I do have some questions. Is that okay if I ask questions?
Yeah,
Okay.
This is a clarification.
Okay. So I noticed that the children's staff room is gone. Is that okay? And that was replaced by the multi-use room.
It's not gone.
Really? Where is that? So this was it.
So instead of facing out, you go into this.
I'm talking about children's room, staff room, children's staff room. Sorry, no, it's staff room.
Okay, so all of the staff was consolidated into one location. So there is still children's staff, they're just
Okay.
over with everybody else.
Okay, so that's the one. So I wanted to ask, because I have a concern around the passport office location itself, because I've been to passport office appointments, and it's usually like every 15 minutes or something like that. It's very frequent. And I know there's a back door, but the front door is the front door. So people are gonna probably go through those like doors now, because we now have a door, like we have a wall now, so they have to go through the door. So it's like every 15 minutes, there's gonna be people floating through that area. And then usually when they wait, right now, right, there's couch outside, like one person couch or whatever. So they wait outside, but then now they're just gonna like wait here, where there's not much space anymore, right? So I'm just a little bit concerned about that. And then what's gonna happen is like my imagination, it's not based on facts, but like they're gonna go to the staff and be like, where's the passport office? And then they're gonna have to like answer those questions. It's like, oh, it's back there. You have to go through and then you have to turn right. That's my concern, because there's gonna be a lot of visitors.
Commissioner Morris, thank you for expressing your concern. I'm happy to address concerns. I know, do we want to focus on questions, or how would you like to address that?
So this is, okay, so that's comment. But maybe at the end of it, if you can explain if there were any thoughts around that.
Happy to do that.
Yeah. So that's one, and so children's staff room is fine. And then the wall, that wall that we have, the long wall, the transparent wall, that's just 2 doors, correct? Okay. another thing is, I thought that when we discussed about the meeting rooms, there was gonna be some privacy, meaning like fog type finish or frosty finish, but it looked completely transparent. Like I think it's fine to look like see the foot and stuff so you can tell who's inside, like if somebody's inside it or not, but I feel like if it's completely transparent, there's like absolutely no privacy. For example, in my office, we have frosty finish, and we talked about that last time, and I thought it looks kind of different from what we discussed. So that's one. So that's one comment in question, like, is it going to be considered or is it gonna end up being transparent? And then I wanted to understand if there was any enough room between the meeting rooms and the shelves, because the space looks smaller than now. I mean, in the drawings at least than today, because when you see the shelves today to the wall, the gap looks much bigger. So, you know, what is the walking space like? Do we have enough room to kind of, you know, have that enough space? Sorry, so many questions. Should we just, do you want
Can
to
I
answer
answer
that?
them as we go, so
Yeah.
I'm never gonna remember them all?
Yeah.
So that has to be a specific width
Okay.
for accessibility,
Okay.
so that will be the appropriate amount of space to go through there.
Yeah.
Remember, we're at conceptual design, so if down the road it's decided that there needs to be some kind of obscuring of those rooms, that's something we will work on with the library, but knowing, having worked on libraries, there's a certain level of, you don't want it that obscured because you don't want people in there doing stuff that you don't want them doing in there. So that's, again, that's a level of detail that we will work on down the road to get
Okay.
those rooms the right level of obscure for the library.
And then what about the frosty finish or the transparent finish?
That's what I mean by obscuring it.
Okay, so it'll happen, okay.
It may or may not, depends on what the library decides is the right.
Okay, so then, now that, so I do want to talk about passport, at the end, because that's a heavier discussion a little bit. And also, Friends of the Library, I'm questioning about the enclosed space. I think last time when we got the public comments, and how I feel also is like, it needs to be more accessible. And I just feel like it's a little bit isolated, like you have to actually, think about going in, you know, it's not really a float. So I'm wondering if you can just remove that door, like enclosed space, and just have shelves so that people can just access from any points. I mean, I don't know what Friends of the Library people feel. Well, I know that we're not supposed to ask questions to them, but I just thought that you shouldn't be enclosed.
As a commissioner, my understanding is you can't,
Okay.
The question is, if you considered the Friends of the Library space to not be enclosed, that is your question.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it should be, it's a comment, but yeah, it's a question.
Thanks for clarifying the question. So the short answer is yes, that's been a part of the discussion. Absolutely. And that's a part of the discussion that we're certainly working very closely with the library staff as well. Because there's obviously a blending of opportunity and consideration. Friends of the Library sales space is for sales. The library space is for borrowing of books. And so there needs to be clarity on the line, defining line between those things. In some cases, one could consider that. So that's a consideration. And not to say that there aren't options to consider opening up further the Friends area, right? But that's a decision that in my mind, would need to be heavily considered with library staff, with those that are around that space to make sure that that is functioning for them as well.
Thank you for considering. My proposal is to remove the enclosure and make it more accessible. That's just my take. But I understand the point that we have to make sure that it's clear that it's you guys are selling it rather than, you know, but.
I think also to that point, this enclosed area allows the Friends to truly have their own space for the sales that they could lock up if they want to at a certain hour, have more control over that space. And then it would allow them to actually have the more storage. So with the way it works, they can have that back wall of sales space and then also below in that frosted area that Amy had on the conceptual rendering. So it actually allows more square footage of book area that they could display in that lobby area than if it was not enclosed. It wouldn't be able to truly maximize kind of the wall coverage.
I'm wondering if that's something that could be discussed somehow, but I don't know. Anyway. Yeah, thank you for that explanation though. Thank you for that explanation. Another thing, so another quick comment is I want to make sure that there's going to be a diaper changing station in the family bathroom because I don't see that today in the drawing.
There, of course, there will be.
Okay. And then another question, sorry, too many questions. So you were saying that the shelves storage used for books, does that mean the number of books have been reduced? Or are they the same or more?
I'm gonna look to the library team to probably help address this question. Would Steve or Rose like to respond?
So, ABA, had mentioned this is still conceptual and they will be working closely with the library. It will be data-driven decisions based on the current collection and what, what we need and, based on the designs. So they're working very closely, very considerate of that.
Okay, thank you very much. So I do want to ask you questions about the passport office on what you guys think about the whole comments that I made about my concern around people walking through the main lobby, getting lost, asking the staff, and going through the whole area where they're going to be opening that wall door every 10 minutes or so. And then there's no waiting room, so they're going to be kind of clustered around, waiting around in that area where the shelves are and things like that. Like, I just want to get that opinion from the staff and from you as well.
Okay.
How you guys are thinking and the reason why it's there instead of, I don't know, like thinking about using the mountain room instead, for example, right? And then if you want to have a bigger room, maybe, I don't know, like small room could be combined with the meeting room. I don't know.
Sure.
Just making those comments, but I want to know your perspective.
Yeah, I'll briefly speak to the design team's perspective and certainly can hand it over to library staff as well. I would offer an alternative way to consider this. This is how we looked at it, which is that from our understanding, most of the time the passport office is used through reservation. You make a reservation to use that office for passport services, and you're coming to the library with that destination. So that in mind, if we locate the passport office in a different place from where it is today, which certainly today is very centrally located near the lobby, so it's easy to get to and get out of, right? The passport office in its current proposed location is more deeply embedded into the library. So in some ways, I would argue, and this is how we've been looking at it, is that you come to the library for the passport reservation, but now you get to walk through the library and experience and possibly look at books, have a seat anywhere you want while you wait, if you do need to wait, because there's going to be plenty of seating there. And the passport office is a great amenity to have in a library, but I would question, does it deserve prime real estate at the core front of the library when we could use that prime real estate for improved restrooms, a flexible multi-use room, and put the passport office in a place where once you go there once you make that reservation and you do it again in however many years when the passport expires, you know where it is and you go. And we could also integrate signage. We plan to integrate signage and wayfinding as well, of course, as part of the design. That's design team perspective.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right, actually. And I would also add that people don't know that there's a passport office now, and it's right in the center of everything. So, giving that opportunity to come into the library and see what we have by walking through it. Our staff are, great at helping our patrons find and locate items or offices or what have you. So it's just another touch point opportunity that would be well.
Office is open for people getting there first. I'm dealing with it.
Anything else?
So I guess the conclusion is that you're fine with that. And then what about the waiting, people waiting? I know that it's an appointment based, but I've used Passport Office many times in different places, right? And how I do it is I look at the website, where is the closest location that's available at the time that I need it. So if that's urgent, I might go to Cupertino because that's the only place that's open, and it could be post office, not library. When I get there, usually I have to wait, and I've also seen people waiting. So what's gonna happen to the people who are waiting here?
That's a great question, and, we have implemented these offices in a lot of locations that are kind of, off the beaten path, as it were, like in Gilroy, for example, we have it upstairs in a corner space. We've created seating areas specifically for that reason, and I assume we would do that here as well.
But I don't see it there because you can't wait inside because you have to give that privacy for people who are doing the process. So they usually don't let me in until it's my turn.
That's right.
And it's every 15 minutes. So you can imagine the cluster of people coming.
Remember, we're at a conceptual design level and furniture is not, we're not to that point yet, so we can certainly add some seating.
However, there's no space is my concern because this is very tight space here.
Everything is flexible right now, so that's something that we can incorporate if need to.
Just to reassure the commission is, I think what we're talking about is that last two areas of shelving could become like a table and a couple chairs that's designated as waiting area. So when we're talking about the flexibility, we see what you're talking about how there's no space for a chair, but maybe you could make some tweaks.
But the whole point of saying like it's a quiet area just goes away right there for me. Because we were saying this is a quiet area, but there's gonna be people coming along, talking to each other because, sometimes you're with a child, right? Or you're with somebody else. That's how it is for me, because usually when adults do the passport update, you don't actually go to the office. You just send it in. It's usually the kids. In my experience, it's just my kids that I have to go to the passport office for. Adults don't need to unless it's their first passport ever. So I'm sorry that I'm making these points, but that's just my observation.
And it can be something that we evaluate to confirm that this is the best location. And we're happy to take that feedback and say that we'll evaluate it.
Okay, thank you so much, because that just loses for me, the whole point about this quiet space concept.
Can you hear
It's
me?
on, yes.
I have a question about the so-called medium size meeting rooms. How large are they?
The medium,
I see on the plan 2 medium meeting rooms. I want to know how many people around a table each one will seat.
yes, understood. That would seat about 6 to 8 people,
6 to 8,
correct?
that's all?
That is the amount.
A meeting room that, for example, Rose, the book club would meet in, the mystery book club would meet in once a month. Now that's the teen room. I think that we should have a meeting room similar, Steve, to the think tank in Cupertino. That we could seat 12 people around a table for a meeting. So I don't think that this is adequate. Maybe if the two were combined into one meeting room, it would be more efficient.
I just wanted to know, there is the multi-use room that they have added that could work for something like this. It has multiple use, it could be used for many different reasons and hold more people.
Well, how many people does that seat?
That would seat closer to 18 to 20, maybe more, maybe 24 people.
That's not medium, that's larger.
That's what I'm saying is we have 2 medium rooms that would fit maybe 8 people. And then we have 1 room that would fit up to 24 people.
I would combine these two into one. I think that
Thank
would be
you.
more efficient, especially with all these little dingy rooms, which I object to also.
Thank you for the feedback.
Do you have any questions, Christine?
Yeah, a couple of questions about the Friends Workspace. You said the square footage is the same. It looks like there's kind of the entrance piece has been cut off. Has that been compensated for in another way, or there's like an entrance L right now, which is used for storage? So that doesn't affect the square footage. I mean, are you saying the dimensions have changed otherwise, or?
That's correct. Dimensions have changed in the other two wall locations to align to that ceiling. So the overall square footage is essentially the same
Okay,
because that L shape, that dog leg is not necessarily as functional as having more wall space that's uniform.
okay. The other question was, you show, high density shelving at the back, and then you show work tables. Where do the stacks of bankers boxes go?
They can go on the work tables, they can go, we can come up with a solution that is going to work for you guys. This was a conceptual layout. So just
Okay.
remember that
Because there are a lot
in
of
the
boxes that
future.
come in and sit and wait to be processed, and then there were boxes that have to wait to go out.
It depends on how it works best for you guys. It might work that they go on the high density shelving. It might work that they go on the shelving that's around the perimeter. It might work that they go in the center like you have now. So that's flexible and it's something that will come down the road.
Okay, and the other question was, with the ongoing space, is it possible to kind of compare the display shelving that they have now, the area, with the potential area for shelving display in the little store?
We can do that. We have not done a lineal footage comparison at this point. So that's something that we could look at. Thanks for that feedback.
Okay, but you don't have the figures right now?
No.
Okay, so.
Thank you for those answers. I have a question. If you could bring up the conceptual floor plan 311, please. And while we're waiting, just have you considered light tubes?
We'll respond to that now. The short answer is light tubes, definitely would be a great solution. We need to look at, right now that spine that runs down the middle is also an important spine for a mechanical system. So the light tubes obviously would want to frame that in the main acoustical popcorn look ceiling. Yes.
So you have considered, great, thank you. So on the after hours, it wasn't clear to me how big the area was for after hours, because a big part of this on the after hours is the extension of the services, and services equals hours in many cases. So can you show me here exactly what area would be after hours? Because I wasn't sure.
Yeah, Amy is going to draw it out for us. Give it a quick second.
And take a second for it to come up for you.
It's actually working much better than it was.
Thank you. I was confused because I thought it might be only that half part where the dash line is. I didn't know that it took the entire marketplace.
Yes, that is all.
Thank you. The glass wall, how will you prevent our remodel to not heat up as if it's an Apple store at the Stanford Mall? I mean, and I'm asking this, to see, I mean, the question is the top glass wall necessary? And have you looked at it? Are there any heating issues? And do you have experience in this? Because it's a question that's come up.
Yeah, so the short answer is the reason we carried the glass wall all the way to the top is for that acoustic separation. Without it, you lose pretty much all acoustical integrity. If you wanted to have a louder function happening in that community space in the marketplace and still have a quiet side of the library, that would be very challenging to do if we don't carry it all the way to the top. That's first part. To answer the second part, yes, there are ways to, with a new mechanical system, which are part of the cost that we've factored in, that we would zone it so that there's a mechanical system dedicated to the quiet side that is individually controlled to provide the right balance of heating and cooling for that side, because the occupant load will be different at times in that side. And as you know, human beings put off plenty of heat. So when you're in the marketplace, community space, that unit would be able to control that independently as well to prevent, I think, what you were alluding to, which is having a hot box because somebody's adjusting a T-stap on one side and it's affecting the other side of the space.
Yeah, thank you. Second thing, I appreciate the question from my fellow vice chair about the Friends of the Library sales area, your willingness to look at that and also to measure it. A brief thank you on the washrooms. I'm gonna be Canadian about this. But the washrooms are excellent. The main intent when we were doing this as a subcommittee, probably the things I wanted more than anything were those 2 bathrooms that outlet into the child's area, which we don't have today. Something of safety, we definitely need it, and I thank you for that. With that, I think I'm just gonna go through my notes. Workspace, control. When you were talking about option 1 and option 2 in 2.4, were you talking about the boards you put up? Okay, I wasn't sure exactly what the reference was. I was reading it. And I've asked about, are you planning and a programmable space, the marketplace? So I saw in your plans, you want it to be programmable. And I'm not even sure if this is the right question for you. It's probably more for something further on for Rose and Steve in terms of how we program it. But it will be programmable, I would imagine.
I'll hand it off maybe to Steve.
So when you say programmable, you mean to be able to let it be accessible during the after hours?
Well, I want to run my author's event during
Very reservable
hours.
space for the public.
Yeah, so the public can still do their thing.
That is our initial intention, yes.
Okay, so you could, not to hold you to it, but you could hold an event in the marketplace, independent of the rest of the library. Is that
In that flexible space.
in that flexible? Okay, thank you. So with that, Anthony, do we have any further questions from? One more?
One more question. For the multi-use room, it is surrounded by bathrooms, right? Is it gonna be noisy? Or is it gonna be soundproof?
Good question. So it will be acoustically treated so that the walls do not transmit the sound. And then additionally, there's no noise-borne transmission through the mechanical vents and systems because it'll be separate from what's in the other room. So there are lots of ways that we deal with that through acoustical. We work with acoustical consultants to actually make sure the calcs are there and it works. So yes.
Okay, great. That's good. Can I make one more comment then I'm done?
No comments, questions.
Oh, questions only?
Questions only. We got plenty of time to comment. All right, so with that, I want to recognize Larry Lane, who came in. Councilmember Lane, thank you for being here. And with that, let's go to public comments. So Anthony, we'll call your name. Do we have enough cards to do 3 minutes?
Chair's discretion.
Well, how many comments are there?
I believe there's 10 or 11.
Okay, 3 minutes, absolutely. And I ask you, please use the mic. Some of us are hard of hearing, not Carol, me.
Darwin? Thank you, Peter. Thank you, ABA, for at least listening to the concerns voiced by friends. And about our concerns about Friends Corner operations. I sat on this commission for 11 years, in 2004 to 2015. And, it was interesting. I have a couple of comments. Regarding the Friends space, Friends sales space. I was part of the traffic commission, traffic study from when I was on the commission. That, modified the parking lot to avoid pedestrian car occupying the same place at the same time. I think that narrow corridor, by putting that much space for the Friends area is asking for an accident. Between strollers, people going to and from bathrooms and stuff. You partially explained in your, really fully explained in your presentation why the vestibule disappeared. And I do understand why you wanted to match everything to the hips. However, the shelf space along the walls is absolutely necessary for ongoing, for boxes going to the shed, for pricers to actually do their sorting. And I think putting high density shelving in that area is not a good idea because it can be accessed only serially, not simultaneously. And if you get 3 or 4 pricers in there that want to access the books in that area, in the high density books, 1 or 2 of them are going to have to wait for the other person to rank, and then you get into there. I've experienced with these when I was at LifeScan and at the library at LifeScan, my previous employer, and they're great for saving space, but they're a pain to access. My last point really is, it would have been nice to have anybody that wanted to talk about redesigning the Friends Corner to talk with the operations manager at Friends Corner. Normally, Darwin Wallace. It would have been nice to be part of that discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Darwin.
Duncan McMillan.
Thank you,
Okay, Duncan McMillan, I'm speaking for myself. I'm a long-term member of the Friends, though. I want to make a statement about the Friends, which I think can be accepted without too much problem, is we are booksellers. That's our job. Okay, and that's our expertise. It's been 50 years of the stuff times 100 people doing it that actively, and it's something that I think we bring to the party. My perspective from the 30 years of doing that stuff is we don't want, or I don't want, a separate store. I don't even want it to look like a store. I want it to be part of the library. It is part of the library right now. Everybody goes by it. If we can get them to slow down, their kids grab them by the hand and say, I want to buy that book, I want to see the book, then we get the potential sale. We do incredible business in that tiny, undersized, ridiculous space. Okay. Saratoga has 1,600 square feet of sales space. We have 264. And I contend we beat their ass selling stuff. Even on 25-cent books. The week before last, we sold 340 of those silly things in the lobby, and that isn't even in the plan. But we need 2 carts for that, by the way. So I think putting a glass fish tank in the middle of the lobby will hurt the lobby, the feel of the lobby. It does not reflect the use of the lobby. It doesn't look good, and it makes us a store that has to be a conscious decision to do it. It will lose lots of potential sales. So I think absolutely, positively, it is a bad idea. Please do not do it. Leave us against the wall. Give us the 264 feet that we have now in that linear square feet, or linear feet, the The square footage is 264, and the linear is, I think, 291. Okay, just give us those numbers, slap us against the wall, and be very happy. Or not bad.
Thank you, Duncan.
Donna, you're up.
Okay. Thank you for the opportunity to give comments tonight. I'm Donna Polis. I'm a Los Altos resident for over 35 years, and I have great respect for Friends of the Los Altos Library. Every member of Friends is a volunteer. There is no paid staff. The sole purpose of Friends is dedicated to supporting the library. For full disclosure, what we just learned, my husband is a very active friend of the libraries, but approximately 3 days here. And I'm really disappointed, actually shocked, that Friends has not been consulted regarding the proposed changes in the library, several of which I believe would make their work more difficult. Why haven't you formally engaged with them? Though I'm not a regular volunteer, I visited Friends Corner many times, and I'm so impressed with the volunteers, how well they work together to provide thousands of books to offer to the public at their quarterly book sales. Friends keeps thousands of books out of the garbage stream, offering them to the public at very reasonable prices. Most cost only like $2 to $5. A special program of Friends is Books for Schools, plural, which allows public school teachers who register for the program to bring hundreds of books to their classroom at no cost, which allows, gets more books into the classroom, which stimulate the interest in books with the children, and then therefore their interest in reading. The Daubert Foundation pays for these books, ensuring that the proceeds of the book sales includes the value of those donated books. Friends activities are completely a win-win for our greater community. Please give them the respect that they have earned through their thousands of hours of volunteer work, with all the proceeds benefiting the Los Altos Library. To include their concerns in all of the proposed changes, I strongly recommend yet another proposal for the library changes, which would include the concerns of Friends of the Library. Thank you.
Thank you, Donna.
Angela, to Julie.
Angelo.
You Donna. Glasses. So I'm Angelo De Giuli. I'm retired from Hewlett Packard, and I'm a citizen of Los Altos since 1999, so I'm 26 here, and I really love this place. I moved 4 times before buying a house here, and always in Los Altos because I really love it. So I have 3 children, and well, climate change is my top concern. These 3 children grow up, but I know that their life will be impacted by what's going on unless we act quickly on climate change. And so I was pleased. So first of all, I want to thank all of you for this great program to renew or to redo what is already a great library of Los Altos. And also, Los Altos is probably the place where there's most traffic, I mean, citizen of Los Altos that comes and goes here. So really, out of all the public place, this is probably the one most used. So I really want to, I want really to push the commission and also obviously the architect to look into electrify completely the building. Climate change is going to be, as I said, an existential threat for our life. And I believe that it's not something that we can trade off for other things. The city has this beautiful climate action and adaptation plan. It's great. One of the things what they really they say, well, that's great. This is one of the great thing about the city of Los Altos. There's a plan. It's very ambitious. We cannot miss any opportunity to act on that plan. This is a great opportunity. I don't think that's something that we can trade on. It is going through full electric. Whatever it will be, obviously going to be a little bit more cost, but it is absolutely important. It's going to be a showcase for the rest of the community. It's going to show the commitment of the city of Los Altos to a better future. And so that's only my request. Please consider, and in your recommendation, to make this future building full electric.
Thank you.
David Kane.
I'd like to start out by commending the Library Commission and also the Los Altos Library Endowment. And all those have worked to bring the library renovation into reality. The vision, the public input, the prospects are magnificent. And it's truly a gift to the community. My name is David Kane. I'm a retired engineer. And with me is Sydney, Sydney's, Kirstine, and also Tallulah Turner. Sydney is a college student. Tallulah is a high school student. We are members of the Electrification Collaboration, a group of local citizens who are brought together to assist others in undertaking upgrades to their electrical systems to keep Los Altos clean, green, and emission-free. We are active in Los Altos and we're collaborating with Greentown Los Altos and also many others in the community. We submitted the details of our proposal to Anthony, excuse me. We submitted the details to Anthony Tarasenko. The details of our proposal are to replace the natural gas furnace with modern heat pump technology, which we feel can be done at a percentage of the total renovation cost. We also believe that it will pay for itself, not only in terms of the electrical efficiency that it brings, but also to the intergenerational pollution and environmental costs and health costs. So I want to say that this is completely aligned with the Los Altos Climate Action and Adaptation Plan. So I'm going to turn this over to
Sydney.
Thank you, Dave. Just starting off, looking at the community center that's just a short distance from us right now, it represents sustainable 21st century living. It was built with clean energy, lower emissions, and the future consideration of the community. However, not every building will be able to be built from ground zero in this way. The greatest challenge that we face as a community now is retrofitting these older buildings to reduce their carbon emissions. With the extensive library renovation that is to come, we are being presented with the perfect opportunity to transform the utility yard into a clean energy center of excellence. By replacing the current polluting heating system with a more efficient commercial heat pump, we can serve as a model for other community buildings that are in need of retrofitting to reduce their emissions. This upgrade can be shared with the community as a learning opportunity for building electrification. As a part of this opportunity, I think David is going to pass out a flyer on how that heat pump technology works. But not only as an opportunity to learn about the technology itself, it's an opportunity for us to learn, to collaborate and connect with the future prosperity of our community in mind. And now I'm going to pass it to Tallulah. Thank you, Sydney. The library isn't just a center for books. It's a center for learning and innovation. And what is more pressing and urgent to learn about and innovate around than climate change? Public institutions should set an example for the public, demonstrating a clean tech revolution that is so important for our future. We have tangible benefits from lower pollution, health benefits, climate benefits, economic benefits of a graceful transition, and community learning benefits. We ask you to review our EC study and authorize a formal engineering evaluation. All generations here are grateful for your consideration. Thank you.
Robert Mayo.
Hi, thank you. I'm Robert Mayo. I'm a patron of the library, and like some of the others, I'm also concerned about climate change. So briefly, I'd like to thank you for considering a heat pump as the heating source for the building instead of burning natural gas. Times are changing, climate change is advancing, and public opinion is shifting. I think burning natural gas in the library will eventually be seen like walking around the library smoking a cigar. And we wouldn't really want to be doing that. I think of libraries as optimistic places. They're places where you go to learn and to grow and explore future possibilities. And to me, clean heating really amplifies that message as part of it. Thanks.
Melissa Smith.
I want to thank the commission for the opportunity to speak tonight, and I also want to thank the design team for taking into account the opposition to the original restroom plans to have only non-gendered restrooms. And before I talk about the restroom issue, I wanted to say that I appreciate the Friends of Los Altos very much, and our family heavily uses the book sale and that it's important to give weight to what these members of the Friends of Los Altos have said about wanting to not have an enclosed space. Recently, I went on a trip to New York and was forced to use a non-gendered restroom. I had no other choice. My husband was with me since it was a non-gendered space. And I saw my husband walk in on a man whose door was closed, who did not lock his stall. This could easily have been a little girl walking in on a grown man, which would have been a traumatic and potentially dangerous situation. Incidents with faulty locks or an accidentally unlocked door not only creates distress and discomfort for those involved, but also raise serious concerns about public safety and the library's duty to provide secure, respectful facilities for all patrons. Preventing such scenarios is essential to maintaining community trust and upholding basic standards of dignity and privacy. And so I urge the commission to recommend to the city council to go with the bathroom plans that were proposed tonight. Thank you.
Kate and Jean. Pawan Deshpande.
Good evening, everyone. I'm here today to express my opposition to the previous proposal for the mixed gender bathrooms in the library. I'm a Los Altos resident, parent to children. Also want to just appreciate the commission here and the design team for everything they've done. We just did a home rebuild a year ago, and just getting an agreement between me and my wife is difficult enough. I can really appreciate doing this on behalf of the whole city. And also, there are a number of other parents who have been in and out of the room here today who aren't able to speak because of parenting responsibilities. Also texted me as well, want to be here but can't, so I'm speaking on their behalf as well. This past weekend, I was at the Chabot Space and Science Center in Oakland and had my first experience using a mixed gender bathroom. It was uncomfortable, to be honest, and a little awkward, but I didn't feel unsafe myself. But I think that's because My wife and I, our whole family, we were in the bathroom together with our children at the same time. But the library is a different story. I have two children, ages 10 and 6, and the Los Altos Library is one of the few safe spaces aside from school that I feel safe leaving our older one here unsupervised. It's not like the old days where you come back home by dinner time. You know, there's only a few safe spaces, and this is one of those. What worries me with the mixed gender bathrooms is that our children would no longer feel safe if they're using it unsupervised. The previous proposal had a few things that are concerning put together. First is the bathroom, it's a public bathroom where anyone can access it, unlike a campus. The bathroom is mixed gender. It's in a location where children may go to bathroom unsupervised without their parents, unlike a museum or an airport. The bathroom would have floor to ceiling stalls, which is good for privacy, but unsafe and has a potential for sexual assault. And it's also used by both grown-ups and children, not just children. So over the past decade, there have been a number of cases where men have engaged in voyeurism in public mixed gender or gender neutral bathrooms in the Bay Area. This includes Santa Rosa in 2024, San Jose Starbucks in 2024, Sebastopol in 2022, Walnut Creek in 2022, San Jose in 2020, San Francisco in 2019, Union City in 2018, Mountain View in 2016, Redwood City in 2015, Sunnyvale in 2023, Millbrae in 2019, and even in the Panera off El Monte, there was a case of voyeurism there as well. So I'm concerned about the Los Altos Library ending up on this list and no longer being a safe space for women and children, and I'm in favor of the new design. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jaime Cordera?
I want to thank everybody for coming out and doing this. I haven't been involved with this issue before, but I have other issues and it's a lot of work. So thanks for commission staff, library staff, and consultants. I'm here to speak in support of putting the heat pump in. I don't know these other people, but I'm with them.
Yeah.
So I was
part of the coalition.
So I'm a little late in the process, so I might not, this may have been covered before. I was surprised to read the paper that we put on a new roof in the library without solar panels. That seemed like a kind of a big omission, but I'm sure there's a reason for it. So the gas heat pump, the moment you start the gas heat, the gas powered heater, the moment you install is obsolete the moment you install it. It's always going to be wrong. You will have to replace it with a heat pump at some point. Why not now? The other thing that we talked about, it may not pencil out, and there may not be support for the solar panels on this roof. There are reasons. One of the things in my part of the Los Altos is that PG&E is very unreliable. So I would rather have the panels local, if not on the roof, than in the parking lot, like Foothill College does. If you go to Foothill, in the back parking lots especially, hundreds, if not thousands, of solar panels. So I think we could do something like that. We have a small amount of parking by the library, but quite a bit more over the Civic Center, and there are already solar panels on their roof, so we could maybe borrow some of their lines. So anyway, especially the numbers, I think that if I heard the consultant correctly, it was $500,000 to upgrade to get a bigger connection to PG&E so they could continue to overcharge us. That seems kind of weird. I wonder if maybe they've thought of this already, just putting in panels on the parking lot as opposed to paying $500,000 to PG&E, perhaps putting some of that or all of that towards panels in our own parking lot, which, we will then own as opposed to paying PG&E forever for unreliable power source. So I missed the meeting. Okay, I'm done. Anyway, please consider the heat pump function.
Thank you.
Anna Marie Santora.
Hi, good evening. I'm Anna Marie Santora, and I am a resident of Los Altos. Most importantly, I'm a frequent flyer of the Los Altos Library, and even more important, my 3- and 5-year-old are frequent flyers of the Los Altos Library and all your programming. So thank you for that. I am concerned here tonight in opposition to the proposed restrooms of non-gender restrooms. As it relates to safety for both my 3- and 5-year-old, I have concerns, especially as they age, that they will not be able to use the restroom on their own. Today, I have to help them get to the potty. But in the future, I hope that they'll be able to go and feel that it's a safe space for them to utilize. Accidents happen, kids rush in, they have to go to the restroom. What if someone doesn't lock the door? Now I have to explain a whole nother layer of things and honestly, potentially permanently scarring my child because they wanted to use the public library's restroom. I think it's paramount that we take that into consideration, and I appreciate your time tonight and allowing me to speak. Thank you very much.
That's the final speaker.
That's it. Okay, so, thank you very much, members of the public. I know I hate to say this, but I got my start that way. Speaking in front of a group like this. So it's very brave of you to come up, talk, whoever you are, whatever age you are, and I thank you for that. I also appreciate all the comments and, everything that you guys had to offer. We can't comment on, we may talk about it as we deliberate, but we really can't comment specifically to your comments today. But they are part of the record and they have been heard. So, shall we discuss the item at hand? Who wants to go first? Christine?
I'm good right now.
Oh, okay. No comments?
I don't have anything further.
I know I'm not supposed to comment about what they said, but.
It's on.
So,
Yeah.
I like the idea, about the clean energy. I'm all in support for that. So if you can explore the heat pump and, as much as you can and look into it, would be great. Just in general, like clean energy. So thank you so much for coming today to speak up about that. I appreciate it, because that's a great reminder for us to look into that and set good example.
We can make a motion.
Okay.
Essentially move forward.
Okay, so maybe I'll make a few comments. Like, I really appreciate the public for, talking to us today and coming, like emailing us also. We had received a lot of public comments. And I'm really grateful that the bathroom was changed. So thank you so much for taking that into consideration. That's to the library and also to ABA. Like I am, and I feel also very supported that people in the public today agree with what I said last time as well. And I just feel supported. So I'm very happy to see this new design for the bathroom. So I'm happy with the bathroom myself as well now. And so that's one thing. And I think for me, so we talked about the heat pump, looking into the heat pump. We talked about looking into the Friends of the Library store. And also, if you can also, like I said, look into the passport. So those are the 3 things that I wanted to ask you to look. Sorry?
What was your question? Or
Actually, I would just add.
Yeah, I guess the issue of the ongoing sales space being in the lobby, is that kind of set in stone? Would that be even possible to reconsider that at this point with this redesign?
I think at this point, it can be something that we continue to have a dialogue on as we move forward in this process. As you saw on the timeline, we're very far away from seeing this become a reality. This is before you to continue moving the project forward and continue the work that we're doing with ABA. And we can consider the feedback that we've heard from the commission today. I do want to note that we'll do our best to respond to everything, but as you saw when we went through the outreach, we got feedback in different directions, all sorts of ways, so being aware that we're getting feedback from lots of different people with lots of different opinions, and we're trying to coalesce that into one design that I think AVA has done a great job of hearing that feedback.
I'm very happy with the proposal as it is, as with the, understanding that you keep working with the, with the partners like the Friends, to make sure that, we meet their needs as best as we possibly can. Just some background. The Friends have been around since 1957. They've been an active supporter of the library since then, and reading histories of the library. They've been involved at every stage of the library being developed, remodeled, changed. The sales that there are multiple sales that the Friends do every year. 4 in the community center, book sales. They have Amazon. We have the ongoing sales. This weekend, we repurposed 1,200 boxes full of books. If you do the math, that's, let's say there's 50 books per box, that's about 50,000 to 60,000 books that were reused. Somebody got on me for saying recycled, but the reality is these books are repurposed and put back. There is nothing greener, in my mind, in the city that we do in terms of repurposing all that energy back into somebody, whether it be to schools or other people. I support this project very much, and I'm ready to make a motion in every area but one. And yeah, I'm not gonna be popular, but hey, I'm not, I never, popularity was never my thing. We need to look at the electrification much closer. There's a certain amount of money that's available for this project, and adding in addition to that money, if we can bring in more money for that purpose and that purpose alone, great. If we have to electrify because we have to, right? I mean, you can't use natural gas, or I get it. But this is sort of a plea that we look for alternative monies to support that project. I'm not saying that, what's there now is not, but to me, it's sort of an additive thing that we want to do. And I will forever ask that money, the money needed for that is detailed out so we know what we're getting into. Now, why do I say this? I've worked with PG&E. I've done a remodel. I've seen the hell people go through by not getting the right hookups, by not getting the right panels. I respect what you're doing. It's complicated, and you know this, right? And I just want to make sure that we really consider that as we go through. But on every other aspect of this proposal, I feel that it's ready as a commission, at least I am, I don't know about the rest of my commissioners, to move this on, to go to city council. And, public, keep talking. Keep, show up at city council. Write in the letters. If there's something you want to see change in this plan, I'm not gonna say this, don't give up on electric. You're not gonna give up on electrification, right? So I won't even say don't give up. But, keep the motion going, because that's how things happen. So thank you very much for being here and giving us your feedback. This is very complex. Anybody who's done a remodel knows that, what I want to see in the budget, actually, I want to see that plus 20%. Because I know whatever I sign up for, it's gonna cost another 20%. We're not there yet, but we need that slack. My opinion only. So with that, I'd like to make a motion that we move this proposal forward to the city council.
Do you have a second?
Wait a second.
I want to ask questions.
All right.
If we move forward, are we getting rid of all these considerations that we just discussed about? Like, for example, can they still revisit the Friends, like, you know, store? Re-roll of like, sorry, I just want to be clear that we can still think about the Friends of the Library sales area.
I think at this point in time, we're still talking about colored boxes on the sheet, so we have flexibility as we move forward in this. That's, like I said, we will continue to evaluate options that make sense for the project as it moves forward. And I think that architects would mention this as well, is we don't know what we don't know until we find out we don't know it. So there's lots of things in this project that as it moves forward may shift, and this is just the concept that we're moving forward.
Okay.
That's what I'd like to ask you. So what exactly does it mean taking it to city council at this point?
It would be to move forward with the project out of phase 1 and into phase 2, where we start doing more work on the conceptual drawings and make them actual drawings that we can bring back forward to the community and then to city council.
So there's still room for more rework, but there would be more detail.
There's plenty more detail that will be coming forward in the project.
As long as, I think my thing is that as long as we can consider, we leave time for the Friends of Library consideration, like we talked about, and you said yes, so that's great. And I still think the passport office should be considered. I'm sorry, but I was thinking about it and I wanted to comment that like typically, right, it's the whole family that comes. Maybe you should do the research on the demographic, but basically, like I said, it's usually people who are babies, kids that you need to be in the office for the first time, person who's getting a passport for the first time. And you have to have both parents there to get a passport renewed for the kids. So that's what I have to do. I have to bring my husband, I have to bring my kid. So, you know, like I said, like every 15 minutes. So you should look at the demographics, because if you're saying, hey, you want to have people look at the library books and things like that, probably it's more children in the space area. So, and also it really deters the fact that it's a quiet area, because it's not quiet anymore. So I think those are the two things. And then I understand the heat pump. I don't know, I mean, I haven't done, I don't know the details of electricity, remodeling, I'm not an expert. I understand, but I'm just wondering if it's worth just looking into it to see what the costs look like, what is the level of effort look like, just so that we have a comparison. And can we do that and then make a decision later? Is that possible? Just lay it out, and if we're not going with it, I just want to know why we're not going with it.
We can continue to explore that option, and that was why it was presented today. Obviously, when we go to city council, we'll have considerations of council as well that we'll be looking at, so.
Yeah, Anthony hit the nail on the head as usual. We will have, to other commissioners' points and public recognition, there will need to be a detailed breakdown. The cost that we were presented today, there's a lot of information behind that, and it's not just the service upgrade. We would be looking at that certainly and be able to share more information and detail behind that.
Great, okay, so I think if we're taking it to the city council, my ask is to clearly lay out what we're still considering, so that they know that this is like some areas are not set in stone, if that makes sense. So Friends of the Library, passport, electricity. Just want to make sure like, hey, this is what we're proposing, this is what we're going with, but these three things are still in consideration, if that makes sense. Then I'm aligned to take it to city council.
I don't know how we legislate that though, how we write that in, I think is Anthony's challenge.
I think at this point in time, I would say that we've taken direction, that that's something you want us to further confirm that this concept meets the needs of the community. And I think what we're hearing is confirm our assumptions as to why we're doing the thing we're doing. And I think that we have a rationale for the reasons that we're doing that. And so we will work to confirm that those make sense. And if they don't, then we will be happy to adjust the plan. And as I said, these are still conceptual drawings at this point that will change. And we need to know that what we're showing the community today, what the commission sees today, is probably not going to be exactly what the remodel is going to look like when all said and done, because things will change.
One more thing is like, I know we heard about the shelving, right? And shelving is more like the interior piece, it's not the architecture itself. So that's something that you can still explore with Friends of the Library, is that correct? Like, can you?
We will evaluate the sale or the Friends workspace with Friends. When the
Yes.
time comes to say, how does it lay out? What do we put where? I think we've heard from the operations manager of Friends that we've done walkthroughs of the space, but really when it comes time to look at what that space looks like internal to it, our team will be happy to meet with them and walk through that further.
Thank you so much, because I want to make sure that it's physically feasible for them to continue what they're doing, because they've been doing great work as a volunteer, you know, and I want to make sure like they're not going to get physically challenged to do their job.
I was thinking about the physically challenged part, doing my job with friends. But anyway, for the record, I am a member of the Friends and I all books. Good. I mean, knowing what we know and seeing what we, I'm very happy with the progress. Let's make a motion.
I believe there was a motion to move forward to city council with the main library improvement design concept. It sounded like there might have been a second from Vice Chair Morris.
Yes.
Yes, okay, then we'll take a vote.
Take the roll.
Okay. Chair Bedard?
Aye.
Vice Chair Morris? Commissioner Fawcett? Commissioner Carter? The motion carries.
Thank you. Big day. One thing I wanted to note, and I know that the Anderson Brule went through the process with you, but it is going to city council. And after the city council, if they approve it, then it will go to the NCLA, who is providing the funding. Then it will go back, that money will go back to the city council. And the city council is the one who's managing with Anthony the project. Project managing everything that goes on, working with the architects, putting out the bids, all that stuff. So this process is a long process, and thank you for being here with us. With that, actually, we have staff reports, which I think I'm going to forego if that's okay with staff. Are you, Rose? Good? Yeah.
Can I ask a question?
Depends.
Conclusion before you take it to city council. Like, would you have anything to share with us?
I can provide information as soon as it's readily available. I'll say that I don't know what we're gonna cover, so I can't promise anything, but I'll see you guys in a month, so.
Okay,
we'll
that's.
be back within a month to
Okay,
talk to you.
perfect. Thank you, sorry.
No, that's okay. Before I adjourn, I do want to talk about future agenda items. And hopefully I'll get somebody's, approval, but I'd like to bring a presentation to the commission in September that I'm working with a young man who's called a SLOB, a service lead employees. And what we're doing, there is a history of the Los Altos Library written by a woman named Marion Abram. It covers 1914 to 1964. There are 2 copies in the library. We're trying to make it more available to people, to give people a better understanding of their history. It's fantastic. It really, it's an amazing slice of time, but anyway, I'd like to put that on the agenda. If I can get a second on that. Christine, is there anything else that we'd want to see on the agenda in September? Actually, I would like to hear more from ABA if it doesn't put them too much out. Or Anthony can give us an update as to what's going on. We'll get that in.
I'll go ahead and say that I'll be able to provide it.
You'll be able to provide it.
I don't want to promise our consultants time.
I don't know, Amy loves it. All right, any other agenda items?
Is this the last meeting of the year?
I don't know if it's the last meeting of the year, but it's the last one before our reorganization. Michelle. So,
I don't know what that means.
oh, you will.
Okay.
You will, Vice Chair. Anyway, so with that, I can adjourn. Is there anything else I'm missing off the agenda that I should have gone through? Again, public, thank you.
Thank you very much.